Okay, good morning everyone. Shalom Aleichem. Today's shir is dedicated by our dear friend Rabbi David Levy in honor of Chodesh Elul and the whole Kehillah. Shem should be mevarchim with good health, brios, shefa bracha v'atzlacha, ad b'yasgal tzedek. Okay, so it's very interesting. If you look in the Sefer Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, he brings the three classic ramazim to Elul, which remind us of the three great objectives of Teshuvah, Tefillah, and Tzedakah. So the most well-known remez to Elul, of course, is Ani l'doidi v'doidi li, which reminds us about Tefillah, prayer. We have to connect to Hashem in davening, and then Hashem is close to us. Then, of course, we have Teshuvah. Teshuvah, Umal Hashem lekecha es levavcha v'es levav zarecha. That's Teshuvah. Then you have Tzedakah, Ish l'reyehu matanois le'avyonim. However, there's another important remez to Elul. This is already found in the Rishonim, Rav David Avudraham. The Avudraham is such an important Rishon that the Beis Yosef often quotes the Reish Dalet Aleph, Rav David Avudraham, the Avudraham, and he says the remez to Elul is found in every Shacharis. You ready for this? You might be a little surprised. Uva Litzion Goy El Shave Pesha B'Yakov. You hear that? This is serious remez. It's found in the Rishonim. The remez to Elul is Uva L'Tzion Goy Aleph Lamed Vav Lamed Goy El Ol Shave Pesha. So, what in the world is Elul doing there? Why is Elul alluded to in the words Uva L'Tzion Goy El Ol Shave? It's not even in this book. No. But why is it alluded to in that phrase? Obviously, there's an important connection between Elul and the Gula. You know, what exactly is the connection between Elul and the Gula? You know, the Chidah teaches us that being mitzapel Yeshua is enough of a reason for the Gula to happen. Just as chus of being mitzapel Yeshua, that alone could bring the Gula, and we say it in davening. We say, "Es semach David avdecha mehira satzmiach." Hashem caused the flourishing of David to sprout forth. V'karnoi tarum b'shuasecha. Why? Ki lishuascha kivinu kol hayom. Because we await your salvation. Meaning, bring the Gula. Why? Do we deserve it? No. Did we earn it? No. Bring it, because we're waiting for it. That's enough of a reason for it to come. So the question is, really, doesn't the Gemara say, Ein Yisrael Negalim Ela B'Teshuvah? Don't we have to actually do Teshuvah for the Gula to happen? It's a big question. How could the Chidah say that it's not even the Chidah, it's the Tefillah, it's Anshe Knesset Hagdolah, Anshe Knesset Hagdolah, right? That Hashem bring the Gula, why? Ki Lishuascha. But Chazal say, Ein Yisrael Negalim Ela B'Teshuvah. You remember the Gemara in Sanhedrin, Adaf Tzadi Zayin Amid Beis, Kalu Kala Kitzin. They even made songs out of that. Kalu. But you don't know, it's before your time, those songs. Okay? But it says, Kalu Kala Kitzin, Ve'en Hadavar Taloi Ela B'Teshuvah. Or, the Rambam says in Hilchot Teshuvah, Kol Hanavim Kulan Tzivu Al HaTeshuvah, Ve'en Yisrael Negalin Ela B'Teshuvah. So how can we say that all it's going to take is to await the coming of the Gula? Don't we have to do Teshuvah? So, very interestingly, the Ramchal wrote a sefer of 515 tefillahs, like Moshe Rabbeinu. The Ramchal wrote Taf Kuf Tes Vav tefillahs. It's a lot of tefillahs, 515 tefillahs. In his 158th tefillah, the Ramchal writes as follows. V'im toimar, this is part of the tefillah, it's not a toisvis, it's part of the tefillah. V'im toimar, she'ein Yisrael oisim tshuva lefanecha, Rebbeinu Shem. You're going to ask, how could we bring the Gula, but we're not doing tshuva? Harei kivoy shelahem, yamoid, legalois tshuva zois lahem. They're awaiting the Gula will uncover and reveal the tshuva. Somehow, awaiting the Gula uncovers the tshuva in the heart of Klal Yisrael. Meaning, so to speak, the predecessor of tshuva, what activates tshuva, awaiting the Geula activates tshuva. Also, Chassam Sofer writes in the Drashos for Zayin Av that on the pasuk Batzar lecha umtsaucha kol hadvar ma'ela b'achras hayamim v'shavta ad Hashem lekecha v'shamata b'koiloi. Says the Chassam Sofer, the distress that we have that we're in Golos is the Teshuvah. Is Teshuvah. In other words, yearning for Gula is Teshuvah. What is Teshuvah? Chavos Havavos teaches us Teshuvah is an act of coming close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu from a state of Richok HaChet. So when we yearn for Hashem's revelation, that is a form of Teshuvah. I was this Shabbos in Norfolk, Virginia. The beautiful Kehillah over there. They have, for a small Kehillah, they have more coffee machines per capita. They have multiple Keurigs, and they have a new kind of Keurig, iced coffee Keurig. You know about that? They have an iced coffee Keurig. And they have a fully stocked base medrash 24 hours a day, so people are always learning because, Anyway, I said over something that we said here, and 2 people came to ask me the same question. This is an amazing question. And I think it needs to be addressed because it will uncover a very important aspect of being mitzapeh liyeshua. If you remember, the Arizal teaches, where is the designated spot in davening to be mitzapeh liyeshua? The number 1 designated spot. No, the Arizal says, and this is in the book, which, by the way, it was out of stock. It's now back in print. And make sure you get it because the Chafetz Chaim's yard site is coming up. Chaf Daled Elul. So you want to make sure you get the Sefer Tzipis Yeshua in the chapter on the different locations in davening to await the coming of Mashiach. So we bring from the Arizal that the designated spot to be mitzapeh liyeshua is when you say the words Ki lishuascha kivinu kal hayom. The Arizal says that after 120, if you want to be able to answer in the affirmative that you are mitzapeh liyeshua, take advantage of that juncture.
What is it?
It's on page 150. You think it's a coincidence? 150. It's on page 150. And also, look what ArtScroll did. These words are the. The is all bold. Not bold, capital letters. They made the. These words are the designated occasion for Tzipah Liyeshua in our prayers. Okay? We know that already. We learned that many times, right? That the designated spot to Mitzapeh Liyeshua is in the Bracha Tzemach David. We even said over that Rav Miller, on Rosh Chodesh, he would take his thing of keys, and he would put it in the siddur by Ya'aleh V'Yavai, so he shouldn't forget Ya'aleh V'Yavai. Everybody thinks everybody's a groise knacker. No, I'm not going to forget Ya'aleh V'Yavai. I'm not going to forget Ya'aleh V'Yavai. There's a reason why there's a siman in Shulchan Aruch of what happens if you forget Ya'aleh V'Yavai. What do you think? When you step out after Shemona Esrei, we think you went to made a phone call? No. We know you forgot Ya'aleh V'Yavai. So remind yourself. Do something to remind yourself. So instead of putting you could put the keys by Ya'aleh V'Yavai, but what do you do with the keys on every other day of the month? Put it by Es Tzemach David. That is a key. That's one of the most important moments of your day. In other words, of your entire day. If you were to, this would be a good share, top 10 moments of the day. One of the top 10 moments of the day is when you say the bracha Tzemach David, because that's when you're Mekayim, the great objective of being Mitzapeh Liyeshua. So 2 Anoshim Chashuvim from Norfolk, Virginia came over to me after the drasha and they asked, what do you do on Shabbos? What do you do on Shabbos? Now, that got me thinking. Actually, I didn't start thinking about it until this morning. Mashiach could come on Shabbos. Eliyahu can't come on Shabbos. He can't come Friday, he can't come Shabbos.
Even if it's a bris on Shabbos?
A bris he could come to.
Oh.
Yeah. So it's a kasha. Some Sofer asks, how could he come to a bris and not come to Vasa the Gula? Some Sofer says, the Alshich says, when he comes to a bris, he doesn't come like as a guy. He's not like a guy with a flowing white beard, with half the beard flowing to the right side and the other half flowing to this saintly prophet. He's an angel. An angel could come on Shabbos. But when Eliyahu will herald the Geula, he comes as a Navi, as a human being, that he can't do on Shabbos.
Shabbos in time is a Shemayim place.
Yeah.
So we said by l'chadaydi, right? You're supposed to have the kavana.
Right. Okay. Let's develop the question and let's develop the answer. First thing is like this. The designated spot to be Mitzap Yeshua is Es Tzemach David. So here's a very important idea. How often do you think, minimum, you should be Mitzap Yeshua? If it's a mitzvah, right, the Smak says it's the first mitzvah in the Torah. How often then should you be Mekayim it? This is a very chashava yediyah. If the Torah says to do something, and it doesn't say how often to do it, how often do we do it?
Once a day.
Once a day. Very good. Ayalib says the Kesef Mishnah says, the Beis Yosef wrote the Kesef Mishnah. The Kesef Mishnah, Hilchos Tefillah, Parak Aleph, Halacha Aleph says that it's mistaber, that if the Torah says to do something and it doesn't give you a time frame. For example, how often do we put on tefillin? We put on tefillin every day. Where do we get once a day from? Why don't we do it once an hour? Why don't we do it once a month, once a year? Where do we get this notion to put on tefillin once a day? The answer is because the Torah says to do it, and the most basic time frame is a day, and therefore the Kesef Mishnah says reasonably, if the Torah says to do something, and we don't know how often, we do it once a day. The Chafetz Chaim applies this to Avas Hashem. There's a mitzvah d'oraisa to love God. How often should you be Mekayim it? At least once a day. Which means, the Chafetz Chaim writes, you should try to be Mekayim it in the morning when you say, V'ahavta is Hashem lekecha. If you didn't have time to do it then, Chafetz Chaim says you should not eat breakfast until you could sign off that you're Mekayim that mitzvah d'oraisa. So I would presume that the mitzvah of Tzipis Yeshua, you should also try to be Mekayim l'chal ha'pachos once a day. By the way, the opinion of the Rambam is tefillah is d'oraisa or d'Rabbanan? That was a question for the audience. The Maimonides says it's biblical. How often? Kesef Mishnah says once a day. That's where he gets it from. The Rambam says tefillah is d'oraisa, but only once a day. So, presumably, let's say for sure according to the Smak, and also the Rambam himself, the Rambam says if somebody does not believe in the coming of Mashiach, or if somebody does not await the coming of Mashiach, these are the words of the Rambam. Loi b'shar neviim b'lvad hu'kofer, ela b'toras Moshe Rabbeinu. So it means according to the Rambam, the Torah itself says you need to wait the coming of Mashiach. Presumably then it would be once a day. So then, and if the designated spot is as Tzemach David, somebody even asked, why would the Arizal say the designated spot is Tzemach David? He should have said the designated spot is Ritzei, because Ritzei we do even on Shabbos. When are you supposed to yearn for Mashiach? On Shabbos. Yeah, that's the question. So we said over many times, Dr. Asi was mentioning that another spot that is designated for awaiting the coming of Mashiach is l'chadoidi, Kabbalah Shabbos. Why? Right? You notice most of it has nothing to do with Shabbos. Mikdash Melech is a stanza about Hashem rebuilding the Beis HaMikdash, and then we say Uri Sher Daber. We're asking Hashem to restore Nevuah, and then Al Yad Ish Ben Parzi, Al Yad Ben Yishai. We're asking Hashem to restore Malchus Beis David. So why would we greet Shabbos with a piyud that is not really connected to Shabbos per se? So Rav Moshe Shapiro explains that there's an idea in Jewish thought of parallel concepts. Ashan, Olam, Shana, Nefesh. That there are places that are parallel to times. The Gemara tells us in Masechta Tainis, the first Beis HaMikdash was destroyed, what day of the week? Saturday night. Second Beis HaMikdash was destroyed, Saturday night. The Maharal says it's not a coincidence. Great things are never coincidental. The Beis HaMikdash could only be destroyed Saturday night. You see, so long as you're moving toward Shabbos, you can't have Churban. Only when you're moving away from Shabbos you could have Churban. Why? Because what Shabbos is in time, the Beis HaMikdash is in place. Basically, the Beis HaMikdash is the Shabbos of the world, and Shabbos is the Beis HaMikdash of the week. Another way of saying it is, on Shabbos, there is no Churban. Shabbos is the Beis HaMikdash. There's no churban on Shabbos. When it's Shabbos, the Beis Hamikdash is here. When on Shabbos, the Beis Hamikdash is here. Part of awaiting the Shabbos is awaiting the Gula. That's why Rabbi Moshe Shviro says, a designated spot to be Mitzapeh Yeshua is l'chadoidi. So you're awaiting the rebuilding of the Beis Hamikdash, you're awaiting the restoration of Nevuah, you're awaiting the restoration of the Malchus Beis David. So perhaps, how is one Mitzapeh Yeshua on Shabbos? Maybe you're not. Maybe you, by enjoying the Shabbos and recognizing that it's, as it were, as if we have the Beis Hamikdash, it's hard to say you're not Mitzapeh Yeshua on Shabbos, because there are a lot of tefillahs we mentioned, Rachem al Tzion ki beis chayenu, Rachem al Tzion. We have it. Obviously we don't have it. Berachas Hamazon. You have all the brachas on the Haftarah. You have also in this book, we'll see what page it's on. We'll see if the page is working. 10 times on Shabbos. No, 15 times. Can you imagine? 15 times on Shabbos to await the Gula. Kabbalah Shabbos and Oyavei Hashem hamachakim levinyan arial menucha v'simcha, all the zmiros, avhar achamim, tivnei chomes Yerushalayim, all the brachas on the Haftarah. In the Musaf we say Yiratzen shetalinu v'simcha li'artzenu. But maybe the key spot is not needed, just to bring out this idea. So in other words, it's not that there's no mitzvah of tzipisa l'Yeshua on Shabbos. Obviously there is. It's not, we're not going to get carried away with this idea that Shabbos is like the Beis Hamikdash, so you don't have to be mitzvah l'Yeshua. But there is such a dimension that there is no churban on Shabbos, and therefore perhaps it is not as needed to be mitzvah l'Yeshua. Well,
that's where there's a tremendous amount of Beis Ratzon, because it counts up to 50 levels of Torah, and if you go to Beis Hamikdash, that's the only time you get the highest level. So the highest level of Torah only comes through the building of this, so you need to build it on Shabbos, even though it's a bathroom.
Very good. I don't remember that, but very good.
Voice note.
Really? That's good. Remind me, you'll send it back to me. So that's an element of tzipisa Yeshua on Shabbos. I would say that tzipisa Yeshua on Shabbos is a little bit different than during the week, because during the week we're awaiting its coming as we're awaiting the Shabbos. On Shabbos, so to speak, the tzipisa Yeshua is appreciating the Shabbos, and especially in Chodesh Elul, I would say that the reason why Elul is alluded to in Uva, Letzion, Goy El, Ulashava Pesha, is because what the Chassam Sofer teaches and what the Ramchal teaches, that a form of Teshuvah, an avenue of Teshuvah, is to be Mitzapeh Yeshua. So you still have another 15 or so Uva Letzions to think about that Elul is merumaz in a reference to the Gula, because awaiting the Gula is part of the avodah of Teshuvah. And that's what I got for you today. So I'm going to wish you all a great day. Bracha v'atzlacha. Shkayach.